Welcome to New Life Live with host and founder of New Life Ministries, Stephen Arterburn. New Life Live is dedicated to transforming lives one at a time, thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's Steve.
Well, hello, it's not Steve. It's Becky Brown, and I am joined by Dr. Sheri Keffer and Dr. Alice Benton, and so happy that all the women are together for Wednesday. I mean, it's just what a great time for us to be together, right?
It's Women's Wednesday.
That's it.
WW.
Wise women.
Wonder
Wise
women.
women.
Wise women. Wow, women.
That's it. And we're going to answer your calls today, and we're going to help you with so many things. So if you've got a question for us, give us a call at 229-3000. If you're watching on Facebook, thank you so much. Hit that share button so that other people can hear the good news about New Life and maybe learn something. You know, people are struggling. I also want to just say thank you to those who do watch on Facebook, because it's a whole different audience, and we're just excited to be in the computer. I mean, I know we're in your house or your phone or whatever, but, you know. We had a little bit of sad news yesterday. Our Women of Faith family lost a dear porch pal, and that was Lucy Swindoll. Aww. And I know so many people loved her and her adventuresome spirit and just her love for life. And we are sad, but I know that she is rejoicing in heaven today and free from her pain and sickness. And we just wanted to just honor her today because she did make such a difference in so many people's lives. And I know that our listening family knows real well about our porch pals. So just be praying for the family as they go through this time of grief. And speaking of grief, I was talking to Alice and Sheri before this show, and there are a lot of people that are dealing with fear and anxiety right now. And maybe you don't even recognize that you're dealing with fear and anxiety, but it's part of what's going on. And I'm just curious, Alice and Sheri, have you guys seen that in your practices? And what are you hearing people experience during this time of COVID, the culture wars, all the things that are going on in the world today?
Well, especially with the political scene and what's happening there, it's adding a great deal of fear of the future. There are two spiritual steps that I've been advising my clients to take and that I use frequently myself, which is in our fear. God gives us this step. He tells us to turn to prayer, and he tells us to pray for the people that we feel are opposed to us. Mm-hmm. So whether that's politically, whether that's leaders making decisions about the shutdown and what should and shouldn't happen, whatever side you're on about it, turning to prayer for the people you disagree with affects our anxiety because it gives us a sense of having something to do about it. It gives us a sense of control that we can do something because we know prayer is powerful and it has an effect. So Becky, you mentioned grief too, since we're all losing so many things during this time. I keep turning back to a verse that this comes from Job, where he says, the Lord gives, the Lord takes away, but blessed be the name of the Lord. Mm-hmm. And so when my family and I, or my clients and I, were facing yet another loss, it's a good, powerful verse to go to, and it settles my heart to pray that and to know that God's in charge.
It's so true. And, you know, I think that anxiety is really a control issue at the core of it. And we have so little control. I mean, you know, I don't know. Sheri, do you have anything you want to add before we go to the break?
Well, I know I've felt more unraveled. So if those of you have felt that way, just know you're in good company. You know, it's hard being this much out of control. You know, I think we're all over it. I was just telling somebody the other day, I said, you know, I remember a day when kids were like, they would fantasize about not having to go to school and maybe having their mom take care of them and teach them at home, and like, you know, and I think we're going to have the most grateful set of students and people
I hope so.
When life comes back on, because it will come back on, but it's changing us, and kind of like a tree, our roots are going deeper right now, even though we don't know it.
And we'll be right back.
I came into this thinking that my husband was the cause of many of our issues.
The New Life Intimacy and Marriage Workshop will be held online Saturday, October 24th.
But after learning about our attachment styles, I understood how our past hurts were playing into our present problems.
Join Steve Arterburn.
It's been a dream of mine for a long time to help people to grow more intimately together, and we believe that everybody has room to grow in the intimacy level of their life.
And Mylan and Kay Yurkovich.
We help couples understand how their attachment style is sabotaging their current relationship, and then we teach them how to create comfort in a relationship.
To register or to find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 or go to newlife.com.
Here at this workshop, we had our first ever conversation without yelling, blaming, and accusing.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We are so glad you're with us. And by us, I mean me, Becky Brown, Dr. Sheri Keffer, and Dr. Alice Benton. We are answering your calls. Go ahead, Sheri.
Can I just say something? So we're on the break, and I came in, and I haven't seen Becky for a little bit. And so she's beautifully gray. She's got silver hair. And I looked at her and I said, Becky, I love your hair. And so then she told me the story of COVID and how during this time you've thought about it, but you couldn't go get your hair done. And so you went with it. And I asked her, I go, so you keeping it? And what did you say?
Yeah. I mean, every day and twice on Sunday. I mean, I said I earned, well, actually my children gave this to me, my husband, New Life, all of those things.
But isn't that a word picture for going with anxiety rather than fighting against it? I mean, how many of us, I'm still do my roots, doing my hair. I'm sure I'd be that gray if I didn't go do what I do. Yes. But I got to tell you, Becky, that in itself is kind of like a parable. We can fight against this and create more anxiety in us, or we can kind of go with it and see how we feel about it every day. I mean, at any time you could take control and go back to black.
Yeah, I have a box.
Okay, but
and I'm prepared to use it.
But you're kind of feeling what it feels like to go with it rather than against it. And so how many things in our life are kind of like your hair,
right? Where
we don't like it, but trying it on for a while and then going with it to see if we can live with it changes us, and maybe in a way for the better.
Right. Well, I was talking to Alice before the program about the issue of masks. So we all have to wear them at some point during the day, unless you're in the house all the time. But there are some psychological studies that have been released talking about how we're created to read faces. And so there is this big thing across faces, so we can't really read them, and then it creates that anxiety. But to your point, Sheri, we have to learn to accept that, and also be able to say, this makes me feel uncomfortable, but I know that I have to do this. And I know for a lot of people it's like a whole political thing, but I'm just telling you, we are used to seeing each other's faces, and we need to really look in each other's eyes and just recognize that anxiety is part of what we're dealing with right now, but there are ways to address it. And I loved what you said, Alice, about the the prayer. And I always think about Philippians 4, 6 through 8, where it's whatever is good, noble, right, think on these things. And we have to train our mind to go to that place. Not that you just ignore the realities, but it's a way to cope. And so we're hoping to answer some great questions today. And we're going to go to the phones right now, and we are going to talk to Kay, who's calling us from Texas. Hi, Kay. How are you?
Hi. Thank you so much for taking my call. I'm blessed to be part of Wise Women Wednesday.
That's right.
Welcome, Kay.
So it's actually perfect because I have kind of a woman's question. My question is, at what point is it okay for a woman, a mother, to start her own life? I've been divorced 9 years. My kids are 18 and 20. My son's got just a few more months of high school, but he decided to live with his dad last year. And I recently moved in with my dad to kind of help out. He's starting to get dementia. Not too bad, just a little bit here and there. But recently I went to go visit a relative, and she's like, she's telling me, Kay, you've got all this stress on you. I could just see it in your face. And she's like, at what point in your life are you going to take care of you? And as a mother, I don't know when that can happen. I've always given, so I don't know how to not and to take care of myself. And at what point do you say my kids are old enough, they have to make their own choices, even if they're not, I hate to say it, my kids aren't making the best choices, but I try to, take my son to church. My aunt even was like, why don't you come live here for a while? And it's out of state, but I don't know if I'm free to do that as a mother.
Great questions. Well, Alice, Sheri?
So I've created this term, and I think it's because of my own journey, Kay, in trying to find the balance as well. And you ask a good question. When is it okay for a woman to start having her own life? And the first thought that came to my mind is the moment she's birthed into this world. The moment you come into this world, we were created to have a unique path that's just ours. And yes, part of that is caretaking, right? We have kids. We were once a kid, but we have children, and that's a part of our role. But I think so many of us lose our way, and some of us lose our way in our family of origin when we really haven't had the opportunity to develop a core self, a separate self. And so I created this term. It's called self-care-ish. And because some of us live in a way that we're selfless, and being selfless isn't healthy. It's not how God designed us. It's kind of letting go of the steering wheel of our life and just being at the service of everyone else. And that usually builds resentment over time, or we become a vapid human being. We don't really have much of ourselves. And the opposite is selfish, which means I live in I'm always thinking of me. Everything is about me. But self-care is in the middle. It's self-care-ish. It's being able to say, I am worthy of having needs, wants, desires, wishes, longings, hobbies that are just unique to me. And that in that way, it's like we live the life that God has designed for us. So the first thing I ask somebody when they ask a great question like yours is, when did you not have a self? When did you lose your way? Do you have any time in your life that you remember from birth on out where you were able to pursue you and who you are without guilt or shame?
What do you think about that, Kay? Do you remember?
It's hard, but I take. Not really. I mean, I've just always, I'm the fun aunt. I'm the fun daughter. I'm the, when my mom was in a rollover, I took off work for 5 months to be with her in the hospital.
Wow.
I moved in with my dad to take care of him, dementia. And I just, my kids, I'm always at every activity. And, because their dad, I'm divorced, and he wouldn't go, which, I would go anyway. But, I try to be the encourager dad and encourager mom.
So let me give you
have that from their dad, and
let me give you my example. So I grew up in a home where I wasn't seen, wasn't heard, delighted, and cared for. I didn't matter because of some severe things that were going on in my family. And so what happened is I began to live life in order to be that. I wanted to be loved. I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be seen. I, too, was called the fun aunt. I went over the top because I was so trying to be recognized and accepted. And it is a driving force that can lead to codependency. It can lead to imbalance in our life. So what's your thoughts, Alice?
Well, Kay, I think that you have been taught and come to believe a lie that self-care is selfish, as Sheri was pointing out to you. But it's actually a disservice to ourselves, to God, and to our loved ones if we don't take care of ourselves. So I'll give you a couple examples of this. I think Jesus first models this too. Even as an adolescent, he left to do his own thing. He left his parents to do his own thing in the temple because he had a calling on his life. And then later, as he was ministering to the multitudes, and they always wanted more from him, he would leave them. He would go off by himself so that he could be refreshed and come back to serve again. You are a generous woman. It's obvious you love people well, but you may be overly generous to your own detriment. And some signs of that usually are we start to become resentful of how much we give to other people because we're not caring for ourselves well enough. So lastly, a personal example. I believe that I serve my children and my husband better and my clients better when I take a little time for myself each week. And I'll admit to you, Kay, it's hard for me to do. I feel guilty, and I feel like it might be a waste of my time. But I know I come back a kinder woman after my self-care, and then I can continue to love my family better. So, Kay, start now. Start now in building in care for yourself, interests, hobbies, and you will find that you'll be able to be a more cheerful giver in all your generosity if you'll do that.
You know, it's such a powerful, what you guys are saying is so powerful for so many people. And I think of codependency. You know, we find our home in someone else's life. We see someone else's life flash before us. And so I think, Kay, this is going to be a growing time for you. I'm going to send her a copy of Take Your Life Back. I think that will get you on the right track as you move forward. And I love that self-care-ish. What a great word, Sheri. I mean, you're always such a great wordsmith, but it's just that idea of, am I taking care of myself? And I hope that our listeners are taking care of themselves. And, you know, if you're not, you can give us a call. We're taking calls for another hour. But right now we're going to talk to Rachel, who's calling us from Denver. If I can push the button, I think. Hi, Rachel. How are you today?
Hi there. I'm doing great. I'm glad I got through.
Great. We're glad you're here.
Sure.
How can we help you today?
Thanks. Okay, so my question is, I have always had a little bit of a distanced relationship from my mom, and it hasn't been very healthy in the last few years. I recently was remarried, and I have a wonderful husband, and my mother-in-law is wonderful as well. But we have come into some situations where I think I tend to place some of those past hurts that I've had with my mom into the relationship that I have with my mother-in-law. And I suppose my question would be specifically, I would like to know how I can go from, or when it is appropriate to move from just showing a lot of grace into building up healthy boundaries, and how I can keep myself from seeing some of those same unhealthy patterns, how I can keep them from triggering me to respond to her in the same way that I used to respond to and still respond to my mom.
Rachel, what's a behavior that occurs between you and your mother-in-law that you wish were different, that you want to set boundaries with the behavior?
I think, so mostly when things come up, my mother-in-law will say that I'm being defensive. And my mom would say that, and that becomes a trigger for me. There are a few things that, so this is coming more recently because my in-laws will be visiting over the holidays. And usually it seems to build up, and when they leave, I am left with feelings like I'm selfish, I'm ungrateful, even though those aren't things that she will specifically say to me. Those are things that my mom would say to me. And so then, for instance, if I, when I'm hosting, my mother-in-law will buy things for me as gifts or for the family, and it'll seem overwhelming because sometimes it's more than what I asked for. And then I will say I didn't really want that or need that, and I show appreciation and I'm grateful, but it also tends to be kind of stressful for me, and so then I feel ungrateful.
So, Rachel, what you're talking about is so important, and I can sense that so many people can identify with that. And it's almost like you lose yourself in the relationships. You're not the person you want to be, and then when they're gone, then you have this regret because it's not who you want to be. That's not what your intention is. We'll come back after the break, and we will have Sheri and Alice give you some insight on this. We are taking calls for the next hour. We want you to give us a call at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or 1-800-229-3000. You can call 1-800-NEW-LIFE for any resource, but we'd love to hear from you today. We'll be right back.
I feel blessed to have had this opportunity for my needs to be met, connecting with other women who are fighting the same fight, hoping for healthy marriages and growing closer to the Lord on their journey.
My name is Sheri Martinkus, and I want to personally invite you to the Restore Workshop. If you have been affected by betrayal, it might be that your husband has been looking at pornography, it might be an emotional, physical affair. I would love for you to come join us.
I feel encouraged and hopeful that even in my struggle, I am enough.
You will leave with hope, with a community of sisters ready to support you, and you will also leave with tools to move you forward on this journey.
Through the sharing in our small group, I realize that I am not alone.
Please don't hesitate. Pick up the phone, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. I would love to see you there.
The Restore Workshop is being held online Saturday, November 14th. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE to find out more. That's 1-800-639-5433 or online at newlife.com.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for 30 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
Your ministry has saved my life.
If you struggle with emotional hurt, family or marriage problems, the pit of depression, or the pain of addictions, we can help.
I'm down 100 pounds now from what I was.
You guys are awesome. You're a blessing to America.
Our treatment programs provide clinically appropriate solutions from licensed professionals, all in a biblical framework.
I have had problems with alcohol. I think God has ordained this place to be His.
You don't have to be a prisoner of your pain. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
She tells me that I'm a new man, and I feel like a new man.
It worked for me, and it can work for them too.
This time it is different.
If you're ready to take the first step toward genuine spiritual and emotional healing, please call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. God can open the door to a better tomorrow right now. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433.
We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. It's Becky Brown with Dr. Sheri Keffer and Dr. Alice Benton. It's Wise Women Wednesday. We're so excited that you're with us, and we're taking calls for the next hour. And we're talking to Rachel right now, and she's got some questions about how to deal with people. I mean, basically, we're talking about her mom and her mother-in-law. So, Alice or Sheri, you want to start?
So let me take a run at this. First off, Rachel, thank you for being so honest and vulnerable with us about the struggle you're in between these two women and your own journey. I happen to have a mom and a daughter that I'm working with right now, and I won't say any identifying information about them, but let me just say this, is sometimes there's undetected anxiety that we came into the world, and some of us are born this way. We are born with more anxious brains. And and so I don't know, I mean, Becky started the show with worry and anxiety, right, which is a great theme. But if you came into the world, and no fault of your own, you've come from a family that has more anxious brains. When I worked with Dr. Amen at Amen Clinics, I had the privilege of having families look at their brains. And it was like Christmas cookies where, they all got cut out, and you would see kids that their brains look like their dad and brains look like their mom. And so we might be reacting to somebody because we're reacting to their brain rather than really who they are as a human being. And I imagine that in situations that I work with, sometimes that mother and that daughter will have a similar brain style. They'll both be more anxious. They'll both struggle with like self-criticism. And so when you put them together, it's almost like two magnets. Like, in the day where you had little magnets and there's a black and a white one, and then if you turn them one way, they click, and if you turn them the other way, they're like, that.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how it feels? Has it felt with your mom? Like you didn't feel accepted, you didn't feel understood. It always felt like kind of having to walk on eggshells to try to present your case. And when you did, she would label you like selfish or ungrateful. And you were trying to just say, this is how I'm feeling inside of me. I'm not a bad person. I'm just trying to be honest about how, I feel like a Coke bottle that's shaken up. Does that feel right?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. There is so much trauma in both my side of the family and then also in my husband's extended family. There's just so much trauma there.
Yeah.
Really, really intense trauma. And so I've been in counseling for a couple of years myself. Like I said, I have been remarried, so my first husband was absolutely horrible. Anyway, and so I got out of that relationship, but it feels like this is just sort of continuing. And because I guess I think about myself as I'm the one person that connects all of these relationships, and so I feel like it always comes back to me as I'm the problem. Because if I'm dealing with, I've had, a relationship problem with my mom, with my ex-husband, now with my mother-in-law, and it just seems like I can't quite get it right.
Okay, and sometimes there's some truth for us in that. Like if there's anxiety and there's issues of feeling out of control, like you gave us a little clue when you said, when my mother-in-law buys me things, she buys me more things than I really need. It's like you're trying to communicate that you didn't need it, but in essence, in that moment, there's an idea that you had in your head of what you wanted it to be like. And when somebody puts their stuff on you, right, brings something in, if it's a brain issue, that brain will go, wait, this doesn't feel good. I don't like all this stuff. But so it feels out of control when somebody tries to bring more. And so truly, that brain might push back or become defensive because it's trying to mark a boundary around itself.
So Sheri, what would you tell her to do to deal with that?
So this is what I would say is anytime we have challenges like this, we can create workarounds. So I might be working with you and I might be saying, hey, Rachel, what would it be like to feel your anxiety, let your mother-in-law bring more, right? It doesn't mean you have to keep that stuff for the rest of your life. It doesn't mean you have to marry that stuff. It doesn't mean you have to, okay that stuff forever. But what if you just let that stuff be? And then you noticed your anxiety and it washed over you. And you told yourself, hey, I can figure out what to do with this stuff later. I'm just going to say thanks.
I think that's such a great insight, Sheri, because I think what you're describing is that recognition of who I am as opposed to what other people are telling me or what I'm thinking they're telling me that I am. I know, Rachel, that's a lot to take in. Do you guys have a suggestion for a book that Rachel, Boundaries, would be the obvious one, but anything else that How We Love, maybe?
Sure. Yes, both books complement each other very well with these kind of situations.
There you go. It's really about understanding who we are in relationship and finding out what we need to heal and be healthy and to interact in a way that benefits us and the other person, and to recognize when we need to limit time with other people. So we're glad you called, Rachel, and I know that helped you as well as other people. We'll be right back.
for most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit it's addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have Christ-centered partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for 30 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
I'm an addict, and I'm trying to get God in my life again.
You seem to be able to get to the crux of a problem quickly.
Our Christ-centered treatment programs can help you break free to embrace all that God has for you and your family.
I just want to thank you guys for bringing me to a relationship with Jesus.
There really is help for marital problems, depression, addictions, panic attacks, and feelings of hopelessness.
I came back with so many tools to help me prepare myself to fight this struggle and this battle that I have every day.
You can start living again today, living the life God intended for you. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
They did care, and they did follow up very lovingly, and it made all the difference in my life.
Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Someone who cares is waiting at the other end of the phone. God can open the door to a better tomorrow right now. Just call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. 1-800-639-5433.
We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We are still taking your calls at 1-800-229-3000. And we were talking to Rachel before the break. And Alice, you got a couple of things that you wanted to add before we move on?
I do. Rachel, I think we are always called to engage with people with both grace and truth. So grace shouldn't precede boundaries, and boundaries shouldn't take place without grace. They should come hand in hand with each other. So you might consider addressing this ongoing pattern with both of these women before the next occurrence takes place. Because when it has already taken place, when we're in the midst of it, we're too emotional to usually be able to respond appropriately. We get reactive in the moment, and you may very well be defensive in those moments. You are trying to defend your space and defend what you want. But when we can approach it with calm before the next gift giving or before the next holiday takes place, we tend to be able to address it better with a clear mind. So you may need to lay out, this is my preference. Would you be willing to not give so many gifts? Would you be willing to do things a little differently with me in this upcoming holiday? But I'm also taking a look at the fact that I might be defensive, and I'm looking at that with safe people that I trust. You might also need your husband's protection and his voice in this. So asking him to stand up for you, to stand up with you, and to back your request with your mother-in-law, and perhaps even with your own mother. And then grieve what you can't control, because both women may continue to do what you wish they didn't. But speaking truth with grace, and then surrendering the control and grieving what is not in alignment with your preference, is one of the best ways through these kind of situations.
Thank you so much, Alice. I love just that full picture. You brought in the idea of her talking with her husband. And, this weekend we have our Intimacy and Marriage online workshop. And you guys, we've all worked at that workshop. And we know what an amazing weekend that is. And we've boiled it down to a day because of COVID. You can access it from anywhere in the country. Easiest thing ever. And it could make all the difference in the world in your marriage. Whether you're having a difficult time having conversations. Matter of fact, one of the couples that we had last year, I called and did a checkup. Hey, how are you guys doing? And he was like giddy. They were so much in a better place. And I said, well, what was the thing that made a difference for you? He said, we can actually talk to each other. Mm-hmm. Like there's not this tension and frustration all the time or silence. And just like you just described, Alice, healing occurs in relationship. And so the fact that, you instructed Rachel to, bring her husband in on this conversation is pretty powerful. So if you want to, maybe that's the thing that's going to be good for 2020 is that you and your husband or you and your wife go to Intimacy and Marriage online. And you can check it out at 1-800, or you can call 1-800-NEW-LIFE, or you can go to newlife.com. Alice, do you want to say something about that?
Well, Becky, so few of us have been taught how to have good conversations and how to have difficult, challenging conversations. And this weekend gives you the tools and the practice to be able to do it after the weekend and be able to do it ongoing. So I'm not surprised to hear that couple a year later is still benefiting from the work.
It's so good. Well, right now, what's good is we're going to talk to Trinity, who's calling us from Chesapeake, and she listens on WPMH. Hi, Trinity. We're so glad you called. How can we help you?
Hello. Thank you for taking my call. I just have a question I was hoping you guys could help me with. I am at a very complicated point in my life, I suppose. I was listening to an earlier caller. I'm also divorced, except I have two small children, 9 and 5. And I guess it's piggybacking off of her situation question of when is a good time for a woman to live her life. I loved your guys' answer because right now I'm in Virginia, and I have an opportunity in California, which would require me and my boys to move out there, but that would take them away from their dad. Their dad is my ex-husband, and I have been placed in a very difficult situation because I feel like I make my choices based around my kids, mostly based around them, and want what's best for them, but he's making it very difficult, as well as some other people in my life, and using very hurtful words that are just bringing me down and making it very hard for me to make choices. And so I just brought the question to you guys of what do you think I should do, because I don't really have female mentors in my life that can really guide me on this type of thing. So I don't really know where to go or what to do, but I, of course, want to make the best decision for me and my boys. I just don't know what that is.
Well, we're glad you called. And Alice and Sheri, what wisdom would you like to share with Trinity? This is a big decision.
Trinity, would you give us a sense of why you and your husband are divorced and the kind of father he's been to the boys?
So we divorced for a number of reasons. I'm a free spirit. He's more controlled, organized, follows the rules. And it was very conflicting. There was some infidelity involved on my part, and it just kind of spiraled out of control since that happened. I feel like he tries to be controlling and keep me in a box, and I feel like he's using the kids now to do that. But as far as him being a father to the kids, I feel like he is a good dad, but at the same time I feel like he lets his words get the better of him. He'll say very toxic things to me in front of them, or sometimes he says very toxic things to the boys that I remember my dad saying to me. And so of course that triggers me, and it's just very hard for me to sit by and let it happen.
Trinity, would you tell us one of the worst things he said that the boys overheard?
To me?
To you or about you?
So the most recent thing that I can remember is my 5-year-old was sitting on the couch, and I was trying to get him, the dad, to come and talk to me in the bedroom because I needed to speak with him, and he refused to get up. And I said, we're going to have the conversation in front of the kids then. And he said, you're acting like a piece of trash right now. And he said that in front of my 5-year-old, and that was very hurtful for me to know that my 5-year-old heard that.
So
that was the most recent.
You're of course right to weigh the effect that his speech has on you and on the boys. Moving the boys so far away from him would also be a great loss to them if he is overall a decent father, as you said that he is. I wonder, Trinity, if sometimes you use that free-spiritedness that you have as an excuse to do what you want rather than doing what is right or best for your marriage and for your family. I so respect that you admitted your infidelity is part of the divorce. Sister, that takes great humility to be willing to bring that to us. And so as you consider whether or not you're going to move to California, I caution you that you use your free-spiritedness, it seems to me, as somewhat of an excuse to do what you want. How do you take that from me?
I mean, I can see where you're coming from with it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me because I justify everything that I do, you know? I mean, it's hard because at points where he is a good dad, he's also, I feel like he's very toxic, you know? And so, like, he's currently in the apartment with us, and because me and him are very toxic and have a hard time not arguing, it's very poisonous for the boys, and they're a part of that, and so it's very hard for me to hold my tongue. And so for me, I just feel like my hands are kind of tied right now. I feel like I'm being restrained. I feel like I don't have a choice in the matter.
So
of course, my goal is to not to take them.
Yeah, let me jump in here for a second. So first off, let me say this: I'm heartbroken over the fact that he called you a piece of trash. It's not okay. It's not okay yesterday, today, or tomorrow. I'm equally heartbroken that you grew up with a dad who verbally abused you. Let me just sink an anchor into what Alice wisely was trying to bring to you in a really courageous way. When we are triggered by our traumas, and when you've had a dad that's verbally abusive, and then you get married, it doesn't feel safe. And everything inside of you probably has a hard time settling in to a relationship that feels safe, because I think you have some untreated trauma. You've got some wounds that have not been touched, my dear. And so as a way of trying to get away from that wound that's inside of you, a natural thing to do is we fight or we run. And sweetheart, you're doing both. You're fighting against it. That's why you can't hold your tongue, and you're wanting to run. But in running, you're taking your boys from the very cornerstone they need too. I dated a guy who left the state to be away from his ex-wife, and so his son was left without a dad. And you know what? That young boy was never the same, because he didn't grow up with a dad nearby that could love him and invest in him. My fear and Alice's fear is that you will do something, even though you're trying to do what's best for your kids. I think it's about running from your wound.
And we'll be back.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and so often we hear people saying, I know I need something, but I don't know what it is. Well, we've put together the perfect experience for you. It's called Brains, Boundaries, Battles, and the Bible. You're going to hear Dr. Daniel Amen, Dr. Henry Cloud, Dr. John Townsend, Sheila Walsh, and myself, Steve Arterburn.
In this online workshop, you'll participate in general sessions, then break out into groups. These groups, facilitated by licensed Christian counselors, are where true life change happens. You'll take what you've heard in the main sessions and begin to process the areas of your mind and emotions that have kept you stuck. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 or online at newlife.com.
Please consider joining us December the 5th for Brains, Boundaries, Battles, and the Bible.
Register today to begin experiencing life in a new way. 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I was really living a very anxiety-filled life. I turned on New Life, and the topic that day was about anxiety. And just by listening, I got relief.
You can help New Life Live stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the new member thank you gift of 7 books, including Growth Has No Boundaries by Drs. John Townsend and Henry Cloud, Take Your Life Back by Steve Arterburn and Dr. Dave Stoop, and the Emotional Freedom Workbook. Plus, there are ongoing benefits like access to the Club New Life video library, the monthly Club New Life CD or download, quarterly resources, free shipping on purchased resources, and discounts on workshops. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We are still taking your calls, so you can call us at 1-800-229-3000. Or if you know somebody that needs to call us, you might want to text them the number and say, hey, I know somebody who can help you. 1-800-229-3000. Alice, you had a few more words for Trinity before we move on.
Trinity, whether or not you leave for California, I hope that you will make an attempt to address the co-parenting issues that you're struggling with, because even at a distance, they will continue. Despite the fact that you're divorced, it would be worth the while for you and your ex-husband to be able to get counseling. One, so that an outsider can evaluate whether or not what your husband is doing is abusive to you and the children. If they need protection, that has to take place. But two, to help you both co-parent, even if you're going to be doing it at a distance. Please do those things before you make your choice. And the third and final is that you would surrender this opportunity to God, because this is not the only opportunity that is available to you. It may be the only one you see, the only one you know of, but giving it to God and inviting Him to speak into this situation and to reveal to you whether or not that's the best opportunity for you and your boys to take will help slow you down and make a wise choice about all this.
And I too wanted to mention one last thing. It might be that your first step, Trinity, because you feel trapped, is actually not living with your divorced husband. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure what the circumstances are around that, my dear, but being on your own in a separate place, staying there, having a move out, financially figuring out what you need to be able to do that, is going to get you some distance right now, and yet still be in the same area.
And we're going to send you a copy of How We Love, and I think it'll help you have a little bit more insight. Sure, you had a comment about that?
Yeah, I do. Just one thing. When you're reading the book, I always tell people to find themselves in the book, because we all find themselves. It's such a brilliant book. But one of the chapters that I think might stand out to you because of your wounds with your dad and growing up trauma is the vacillator. And so just check it out. I think there's some goods in there for you, my dear.
It's good wisdom. You know, I just want to give a big thank you to our Club New Life family and to our financial supporters all across the world. I mean, literally, because of your giving, we are able to help people like Trinity, like all of our callers today, but also to be able to do our workshops, which we mentioned earlier. And we'll say again, Intimacy and Marriage this Saturday. It's not too late to sign up. But if you want to just give because we've given to you or you've received something, right now for any gift, we have the beautiful 2021. Yes, 21 is going to come. It's going to happen. The calendar from New Life, and it's got beautiful pictures, but it's also featuring all the different Bibles that Steve has been part of. And so we've got scripture, we've got prayers. It'll be an encouragement each and every day. And it's just our way to say thank you. And we just want to let you know how much we are grateful for the opportunity to help people. And you're making a difference through your giving. Let's go to our last caller for this hour, but hold on if you are holding on. Because we're going to answer your call the next time. We're going to talk to Jennifer, who's calling us from Atlanta, and she listens online. And hi, Jennifer, how are you? We got a couple of minutes before we have to go and wanted to get to your call. How can we help you today?
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I have what I think is a compulsive habit that started over 20 years ago when I was a teenager of emailing people in positions of spiritual authority like pastors, and when I was younger it was teachers. And I think it was just, it started so that I could have someone to talk openly with and who would listen to me and be like a father figure to me. And now I want to stop doing that and deal with those desires in a more appropriate way.
Okay. Sheri or Alice?
So, dear, your daddy wasn't there, right?
Well, he was there, but he wasn't there in a way that I could talk like very openly with.
You know, it's heartbreaking to have a parent who's there but not there. You didn't get his presence. He didn't give you himself or his heart. So there is a longing in your heart. I would suggest you stay on the line and ask for a New Life therapist in your area, and I want you to work with a male therapist. I did this. Yes, I did this myself. I know. I've had 4 different therapists in my healing journey, kind of like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. You know, I had different people.
Scarecrow.
Yeah, the Scarecrow. But Dr. Michelson, I'm telling you, girl, he taught me so much about how to sit with a male and to bring my heart. And I did so much good work with him. Thank you, Dr. Michelson. Mm-hmm. And so think about doing that. I love your heart. Go deeper instead of shallow, right? With the emails, go sit with a real man as a therapist and work on some losses that you felt with your dad.
Jennifer, you have great insight into your behavior, and we love your desire to change and to channel this into a healthier way of seeking male influence in your life. And you're trying to put into practice what God promises us, that he will put the lonely in families, that he's a father to the fatherless, but you need him to be that for you, God to be that through you, through a human being. And so Sheri's advice is spot on. In addition to that, you could join a co-ed small group or a co-ed group therapy led by a therapist, because having a relationship with another man in a safe setting like that, in a group setting, will just double up on what Sheri is suggesting, and it will bring healthy men into your life to fill that hole that unfortunately your father left.
Well, it's interesting because we've come full circle that some of this, Jennifer, is anxiety caused from the past, and that compulsivity is that drive. I can't stop. But the great thing, like Alice, you just said, that awareness that you want to stop is pretty powerful. I love what you guys have suggested. Do you have anything you want to ask, Jennifer, before we wrap it up?
Well, because I am married now, and I don't know if that comes into play.
No. You mean how weird it would be to have a male therapist when you're married?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not going to, so the connection that you're going to feel is going to, the work is more fatherly. It's not sexual. As therapists, we protect that. We don't cross those lines. We want to provide a fatherly figure or a motherly figure. Sometimes I end up being moms, a mom. And there's some good work that can be done there in places where we can't change that other person. It's reparative. It's like God brings in these other people so that we can ultimately heal. Talk to your husband about it. Ask him.
And engage him in this. He would probably benefit from attending one of those sessions along with you, because I'm sure your habit of emailing people, it affects him too. Whether or not he knows much about it, it does affect your relationship with him. So at some point, he could be part of the therapeutic process with you.
Love it.
Great answers. Great Wise Women Wednesday. I can't even say it all. I think, yeah, I know. Wow, there you go. Exactly. Jennifer, we're going to send you, I think a copy of the Life Recovery Bible would be a good help, because I can see where recovery principles, when you have some kind of behavior that you have a hard time stopping, there's some great truth in that. And of course, God's word is good for a lot of things. We are so grateful for all of you checking in today. Hold on if you're on the calls. We have a bunch of you lined up, and we're excited for the next hour. I also want to encourage you, if, I was thinking Jennifer might benefit from our Brains, Boundaries, Battles, and the Bible workshop that's coming December 5th. It's a one-day with Dr. Daniel Amen, Dr. Henry Cloud, Dr. John Townsend, Sheila Walsh, and Steve Arterburn. And we're going to have our breakout groups. And we've got Restore coming up on November 14th. Every Man's Battle online workshop is November 7th. You can find all of these things at newlife.com, and just know that you can take one step in the right direction. Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Sheri. Stay tuned. We're going to be on for one more hour. Thanks. Call us. We'll help you.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Hi, Steve Arterburn here. Thanks for watching New Life Live on our New Life YouTube channel. You know, you can see it anytime. Hope you'll subscribe, and when you do, hope you'll turn that little button thing on, the bell, so that whenever we post a new video, it'll ring right through. Now, if you go to newlife.com, you'll see the schedule of when we're in the studio, which is helpful to know if you have a question for the program, or you could go to newlife.com or call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. You could do this on the app. I mean, there's so many ways that you can stay in touch with us and know when we're there, because we want to answer your questions. So thanks for watching right here on the New Life YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time. Click here to subscribe.